I'm not.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is a Washington State Building Code Council full council meeting for June 6th, 2025. Thank you for being flexible. This is a special meeting so that we can align our schedule and take action today on the Energy Code residential petitions. So with that, can we please take roll?
Todd Byerther,
Here.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
Kel Anderson. Not seeing Shell on our list here today. Justin Borgo.
Here.
Tom Handy, he said he might not be able to unmute. He's driving. He's online, so I got him marked as present. Angela Haupt.
Here.
Roger Haringa.
I'm here.
Ty Menser.
Here.
Ben Omura.
Here.
Pete Reiki. Seeing in our attendees list here today. Katie Sheehan. Not seeing online. And Dan Young. And he let us know he has some training he has to get to today, so he won't be available today as well. All right, with that, we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Any other introductions from the public like to be recognized?
Good morning, I'm Jed Sherman with the IAPMO Group.
And he's here in the room with us.
Okay, welcome. I see Tim, please. I think you're muted now.
Tim Atterbury, Associated General Contractors of Washington.
Welcome, Elizabeth.
She unmuted and then
Okay.
remuted, but I didn't hear anything from you, Elizabeth.
Okay. Patrick?
Yes, thank you. This is Patrick Hanks with the Building Industry Association of Washington.
Welcome. And Larry, please.
Larry Andrews Mechanical. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, let's move to agenda item 2, which is review and approve the agenda. Can we start with a motion to approve, please?
So moved, Jay.
Second, Angela.
Okay. Any discussion on the agenda or proposed edits? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The agenda is approved. We do have minutes ready, Dustin, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's maybe quickly scroll through.
So on the screen here is the March 21st meeting. That's the end of the March meeting. And then here is the April 25th meeting. That brings us to the end of that document.
Thank you. Can we hear a motion to approve both documents, please?
So moved.
Second.
It does, Shell and Angela, thank you. Any proposed edits? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay, both minutes are approved. Would anyone like to address the council for something not on today's agenda? Go ahead and raise your hand. I see Tim first. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tim with AGC. Question for Dustin. Just wanted to see if there was any kind of update on gubernatorial appointees to the SBCC. I know there's 2 or 3 vacancies, and then folks that need reappointment. Just want to know if there was any contact with the governor's office in the last month or so.
We have not heard any new appointments. We've been making some reach out to them, but we don't have any affirmative movement on that.
Good question, Tim. Thank you. Ken, please.
Hi, Ken Burlett, Seattle Fire Department. Under the other business, it mentions about on the past minutes, Washington State Fire Marshal's proposal that it would be presented at the next meeting. Was this supposed to be the next meeting?
No, sir, this is a special council meeting and we're handling that as the next regularly scheduled meeting.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Dustin, can you maybe it's a good opportunity to remind us of our schedule coming up, because we have another special meeting when the IRC closes. Is that correct? And the UPC?
Yes, sir. So we had one scheduled for June 20th, and we did make some movement on that one from June 20th to June 27th. That one will be the one that we're gonna entertain as the it's gonna be a special meeting, but it is the movement of the normal regular one for June in there, where we'll have the normal business items on there.
Okay, so a special meeting will get added to the calendar on June 27th.
Yes, sir.
And then to answer Ken's question, then that pushes that to the July 25th meeting.
No,
Correct.
we're gonna have that emergency rule request from the fire marshal at that June 27th meeting.
Okay, thank you for confirming.
Movement of that meeting was to accommodate the closure of the proposal window on the 23rd.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, seeing no other hands, we'll move on to agenda item 4, 5, which are the energy code residential petitions.
Give me 1 second, I'm updating some notes. All right. I'm opening up the log that we had published online for this one and bringing it over. So on screen, you should see the list of this one, and I am not super familiar with everything we have on this one. And then I was hoping that Krista would be online for this one to maybe lead us through it if there's any questions.
I am here.
So should I scroll through it, and if there's anything, we can raise hand and talk about specific proposals, or potentially entertain a motion to move this down to the tag for their review. That is the main purpose of bringing this one here, and the purpose of this meeting is to move these along in the most expeditious timeline. And I thought I saw Jay, you had your hand up for a second.
You answered my question. Thank you, Dustin.
I'll note that the tag did meet once, even without being formally having the petition submitted by the council to them. And we discussed not half the proposals, but maybe a third of them. Had a good discussion on them as a pre-meeting, just so we can expedite the process.
Okay. And just so everyone remembers what we're doing here, in our RCWs for the state building code, the council refers this to a standing committee or technical advisory group, the whole package. So that's what we're doing today, is we're going straight to the technical advisory group so they can begin their work.
And there are 2 proposals that don't have links to the proposal. Both were incomplete. One I have not received back yet. But I do have a proposal that I got today. It just hasn't been leaked yet. The other one, I did get a proposal back, but it was still incomplete, so it has been disapproved by staff as being an incomplete proposal. They were not able to do all the necessary work in time to submit it to the tag.
That's 041 and 047 there.
Yes.
Okay.
041 is the one that I did receive and just didn't have time to link up.
Okay, so 041 would be on the list of stuff that could be sent to the tag,
Yes.
but
Correct.
047 would not.
Yeah, that's why 047 is struck out.
Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
And just for anyone joining that's not familiar with this process, at this point, the staff is doing the reviews, and the council is not screening for content or technical merit at this point. We're sending them straight to the tag. Is that everyone's understanding? Okay.
I'll make a motion to refer these to the tag, the Washington State Energy Code residential tag, for their consideration.
Okay. Is it Angela? Second?
Yes.
Okay. So it's been moved and seconded. I want to pause for just a second. We do have it marked for public comment. So would anyone from the public like to comment on the action proposed here? Okay. Seeing none. Any other discussion? Oh, I do see a hand here now. Patrick, go ahead.
Does the motion include, is it only for the accepted proposals?
Yeah, my understanding is that it was all the proposals except the one that's stricken. So everything on this list except for 047 would be referred as is the motion that I made or intended to make.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, let's do a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay. With that, then these are all moved to the residential energy tag. Good luck. Okay, let's move on. Agenda item 6 is to take action to move forward, potentially take action to move forward to Sierra 102, a static damper proposal that the BRFW committee has was requested by the council to work on. We've done that work and had great input from multiple proponents and the public, and now this is back in front of us to move forward with the larger package that we moved a few months ago. Dustin, did you or someone want to introduce the content here, or just maybe I can just raise the question and see if anyone has any.
I would prefer that second one. We've had lots of discussion at the BFRW level. Eric Vandermeer, the proponent of this one's not in the attendees list here
Okay.
today, and he's the most versed in this one. But we had several more revisions come through the BFRW committee. And so we're on revision 6, and I believe what was passed by the tag up to the council for some consideration with acknowledgement of additional work was revision number 3 or 4. And so it's got a little bit more work in it. And then Roger might have some more characterization to give out for us.
Yep.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Roger.
yeah, as the chair of the BFRW committee, I just wanted to recognize Eric. He was very accommodating. There were a number of people that came to the BFRW committee with additional comments, and several times. That's why we're on revision 6. So Eric worked through comments from a number of people and felt like that this proposal is now ready to go, at least to go up to the CR 102 and get full public comment. So I just want to recognize Eric's flexibility and willingness to work with pretty much anybody that had comments. So
Yep, I agree. Thank you. And Ben also, it was a robust process and I learned a lot. So any other, I see a hand. We'll go to public comment. Oh, Katie's trying to get in, I think, is one hand.
Promote her up.
And then Larry, if you have a comment on this, go ahead, please.
Did we get a vote from the committee for approval on this at the where we ended up at it? That's my question. Did we get a vote from the committee that it's already approved by the committee for the final version, whatever version this is? Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. And the answer is yes, for a recommendation to the council to move forward into CR 102. That will be the motion today. So thank you.
It's not what the question was, Todd. The question was, what did the committee have a vote, and did the committee approve this final version? That's the question.
The answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
And if I can clarify, when Larry says the committee, the BFRW standing committee did vote and did approve this version.
Correct. And I was simply restating what the action was. It was a recommendation to the council to move this forward to CR 102, which is the action we'll be taking today. But I understand what you're asking, Larry. Okay. With that, would anyone like to make a motion, please?
Make a motion that we forward this proposal, I don't have the number in front of me, on to CR 102.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll give that to Tom. And the proposal is 24 GP 1115.
Revision number 6.
Revision number 6. Thank you. Ben, please.
Thanks. And yeah, echoing statements from Todd and Roger, this is a complex issue, but in some good, robust discussion on it. I did want to mention that this would, and just kind of clarify that this would be proposing amendments for the IBC, as well as what is noted in here for correlation for the IFC, and I think, yeah, just IBC and IFC. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no other discussion or public comment. It's been moved and seconded to forward this petition to CR 102 package. Let's try a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. With that vote, this is moved into the CR 102 package. Now, comment, we still have two. If you remember, the council moved this and two others down to the BRFW for further work. Those are the EV chargers and the embodied carbon proposal, both in the IBC. There's been significant work on the EV chargers. We're very close on that. We didn't have quorum last time, so we will bring that forward in one of the meetings scheduled this month or in the first week of July. But Roger is the chair of BRFW, and we are meeting next Friday, I believe, specifically to talk about the embodied carbon petition. Okay, and those are on the schedule. You can see those on the website. Okay, with that, agenda item 7 is we'll take another round of tag appointments.
All right, so we've got 4 individuals in 5 slots we're considering here today. The first one is within the Washington State Energy Code commercial tag. The seat for Government Energy Policy alternate, Liz Reichart, is no longer employed there at the Department of Commerce, and Nick Manning has taken her role there. And so for both the commercial and residential energy codes. We have Nick Manning in here, replacing Liz Reichart. And we sent this out earlier this week and didn't get back from the, tag chairs yet, but, Chel's here with us, and so, I'm prepared to do these as individual motions, or we can, look at everything we have here for all of them and, make, the, motion as a big group for all the tags proposed. I'll
I looked
pause
at them
here.
and approve of those appointments. So sorry if I didn't get back to you.
No, no worries. I wasn't trying to criticize anybody. We sent it out late and it's, not a lot of time. So, just kind of noticing, wanted to acknowledge that we didn't have the chair recommendations listed on this page just yet.
Okay, and Krista, go ahead. You have your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a correction to the residential energy tag list for cities and counties. Ray Allshouse did not apply for the residential tag. He applied for the commercial and he was inadvertently placed on both. So he just needs to be removed from the residential.
Okay, thank you, Krista. And for everyone's, just to remind everyone, what we're doing here is when these applications come through, the staff makes a recommendation in the second to last column there, and then we ask the chair of that tag to make their recommendation. And then the action today will be the council either confirming or proposing changes if desired. So the action will be to approve these names as listed in the final column. I think we can take them all together. So maybe if we're comfortable on this recommendation and the change that Krista's proposed as shown on the screen there. Thank you. Okay, so that's the two energy tags.
Yep. Oh, and then there's one more, Johnny Kocher for the environmental organization rep on the, residential energy code tag.
I approve
Okay.
of that one as well.
I guess I should slow down. Now would be the time for any council members to weigh in, unless you want to do it after a motion is put on the table. We also have this marked for public comments, so let's keep going through all of them, and then we can. I don't see any hands up right now. Okay.
Moving forward, we have none for the IBC. In a difference on this sheet as compared to the last time we saw this, all of our tags are listed out in full on this sheet, so vacancies are kind of apparent as well. They're not listed out as in red or anything, but they're noticeable. On the MVP tag for residential HVAC representatives, we have an application from Bill Schmidtke for the alternate. And
I would advocate for that. It's one of my, actually, they're both my contractors, but they're both very knowledgeable in the field, and that's why I asked him to throw his hat in the ring.
awesome.
So can you state with the comment?
That was Justin Borgo.
Oh, thank you, Justin. I didn't recognize your voice. Thanks. Okay, so this is Ben. What say you?
Yeah, and yeah, thanks, Justin, for your thoughts, sir. And I would also agree to that. I looked at the resume that Bill had submitted and looks great, and I'm definitely happy to have someone with his experience and knowledge on the tag.
Thank you, Ben.
None for the IFC, and then I have one more for the single exit multiplex housing tag. Derek Weigel for manufacturer supplier. That seat is vacant at the moment, and so we have him recommended as a primary for that seat.
Okay.
And Dustin, as the chair of the committee, I reviewed that and I approved that recommendation.
Okay.
And that's all of them.
Okay, good. Let's ask the question. Any one from the public like to comment on any of these? Okay, then can we hear a motion to approve the final call, the last column as has been shown on the screen.
So moved. Approve the last column as shown on the screen.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded by Tom and Shell. I see a hand up with Kevin. Kevin, go ahead. Are you able to unmute now?
There I am. Sorry, yeah, this is Kevin with Northwest Natural. Sorry to get my hand up late. I couldn't find the button.
It's okay.
I was curious, what connection does Johnny Coker have to the state of Washington? Either personally or professionally?
Well, I'm familiar with his name only because I've seen him in our code cycles before, but you know, his company is not listed as being in the state. So I'm not aware of any specific affiliation he has with the state of Washington, other than being involved in the process prior.
That makes sense. And I'm assuming then that any member of the public, wherever they are, as long as they've been involved in the process, can be a member of a tag.
I don't believe there's any specific rules preventing that. No.
I think you're going to test us here, Kevin. Shell, you want to comment on that? Well,
Yeah, I think we've had members of tags that are not residents of Washington, but are involved in the energy code, have been involved in the energy code process. I think, I can't remember exactly, but I feel like Gary Heikkinen, for example, might live in Oregon. And I think we've had other people, another person on the commercial energy code tag lives on the East Coast, but works at a company in Washington. And so there have been not many, but some who have been outside. And I'll also say that Johnny's been involved in our code, both last cycle and this cycle, quite actively. And that seems like a reasonable interest and involvement in our codes.
Yeah, fair enough. I am also one of those people that lives in Oregon, works for a company represented in Washington. So yeah, just I know the guidelines are perhaps historical, but not like written down as code. So just curious. Thank you.
thank you, Kevin. And so it raises the question, I guess it'd be under our policies and procedures, right? And I'm looking at the technical advisory group section, and it says technical advisory group should be constituted using a list of subject matter experts as designated by the council and managed by council staff. And it goes on what a subject matter expert is, but it doesn't specify the requirement of a residency in Washington or working for a Washington company. But it's a good question. Thank you. Anyone have a different opinion? I see a hand from.
If we had multiple applicants, we would probably choose someone locally over someone non-local prior, but we don't have applicants beating down the door for that slot.
Oh, maybe that's right. This is the process where we consider that. Go ahead, Larry.
From Dustin's comment, does that mean there was no other applicants, or was there other applicants from the state? That's what I'd like to know. I mean, if there's no other applicants, I mean, there you go. But if there was applicants from the state, I think that'd be a different issue.
No other.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no other comments or deliberation, it's been moved and seconded to approve this list. Let's try a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, it's unanimous. With that motion, then these names will be approved for the relevant tags. Thank you. So our last agenda item, single exit multiplex housing. I asked to put this on the agenda so we can have a discussion. That's all this is today, is a discussion. Dustin Roger, who's the chair of that tag, we met yesterday to prep this a little bit to to set this up. It's really an open question. So maybe I'll try to summarize first, and then Roger, if you want to jump in, or Dustin. So as you know, we've created this tag. These are two different legislative mandates that we form these tags. The council chose to combine them, and now we're at the point where we've opened and closed a window. The petition window was not a requirement because this is an ad hoc tag. It's not technically on the triennial cycle, although there are requirements that we can consider the recommendations within this cycle, especially I believe on the single exit code in the IBC. So now the question before the council is, do we, now that we've closed that window and we have petitions, and we can get an idea of how others are interpreting the statute, and we can now enter into a discussion and the subject matter expert development. I think this is a little different in my mind, because normally a technical advisory group is advising on external petitions that come in and making recommendations to the council on those. This is almost more of a work group, in my opinion, because they have a deliverable. They have to go through and review those petitions, but also have to do a lot of actual code writing and development if that's part of their recommendation. So I guess the question I have is, should we give more guidance? Should we establish a formal charter for this tag? And even if it's just giving some direction from the council, whether it's formally written down or not, I think this is an opportunity to discuss it in a public meeting. Roger, would you like to add anything or
Well,
disagree?
I was just starting to look. I thought that there was, when we formed the tag, that there was a specific that the motion was very specific, that this is what the tag is expected to do. So, Todd, I think what you have commented on, and I can, sorry, I can't look and talk at the same time, but I can try to track down the Word document that I thought was submitted, and that was the motion that related the tag.
I think, go ahead, Roger. Yeah.
And I think part of the question, and to clarify for the rest of the council and the public, the single exit is something that is required by the legislature to get inserted into the International Building Code. And the multiplex housing is something that is required by the legislature to get inserted into the international, or Washington State Residential Code. So one goes into the building code and one goes into the residential code. And I think that there are, as a work group or tag, and I'm Todd, I agree with you. We've labeled ourselves as a tag. Our responsibilities are a little bit different, but because we have to, as a council, we have to, according to the legislature, incorporate these two things into the one in the building code and one in the residential code so that it can be adopted in the next code cycle. That's basically what the legislature has told us we have to do. And I think that there are some questions that we as a tag have about that, moving forward. And I think taking on responsibility that maybe that the council needs to direct us. And I think, Todd, that might be what you're referring to, and a little bit more detail, but so I don't know if that confused people or
no. I think, we can get a little more into the nuance of some of the questions that might come up, and because it's a very robust group. So first of all, I've called it the Washington Brain Trust on this. This is going to be a great, product that comes out of this tag. I'm confident in that. But I think, we'll make sure there's plenty of opportunity for the TAG to ask the council, and that's why we're kind of setting this up, because there's a meeting on Monday, and this is a good opportunity for the TAG to also discuss this on Monday and come back when we meet in a few weeks. So before I keep going on that, let's go with Katie first and then Shell.
So is it fair to say that the proposals that were received are not a complete, like they don't meet the threshold for, like, if they all go through, then it would be a complete code. So that's basically the issue. We need to empower the TAG to write the code and kind of correlate it to, like you said, in the different codes that matter, right? Is that like a basic?
Yeah, I can go a little deeper on that. And part of this was a request that we very carefully understand the legislative mandate. So literally from the bill sponsor, one of the bill sponsors, and asked to make sure that the council understands what that legislative intent was. So I think we do have a firm grasp on it, but I think the challenge is going to be essentially especially on the sixplex. The ask is we're creating, we're asked to create code for a building that's obviously much larger than is currently contemplated in the residential code. And so the request is going to be, what are we designing to? What is the target? It's somewhere in between, in my opinion, the risk factors that exist in the current residential code and the risk factors that exist in the building code. And those are the petitions we've received now, a couple of petitions, one that is more at the risk factors level, in my opinion, again, let's get lots of comment on this, in the IRC, and one that is full risk factors of the IBC. Now, others might disagree with that statement I just made, but that's kind of the challenge we have in front of us is identifying that spectrum. And I'll say I put in a framework. I put it as a petition, but really I offered it as a framework from a council member of what this could look like, but it by no means is ready for prime time. It's rather intended to try to facilitate this kind of discussion. So Shell, go ahead, please.
Thanks. Yeah. Did I guess I didn't see that petition. Did you submit a proposed direction for the TAG? Sorry if I missed that.
I offered it to the TAG as a petition. It's a performance-based framework that's going to need a lot of discussion and work and so forth, but I tried my best to put something down on paper.
Okay, was that on the council website for today? Or?
It is listed as one of the petitions.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. As it's on the TAG site.
Okay, so I guess I didn't see that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out what kind of direction you want. I'm making some guesses, but kind of Katie had some questions, and I guess my question is maybe more blunt, which is what general kind of guidance are you hoping that the council can provide to the sixplex rule creation? Is it, I mean, obviously there's a balance between acute safety, which is often fire risk, and general welfare, which is housing affordability. And that's kind of, there's a balance in there. And I think, we could provide some direction on that balance. We could also provide more specific direction, but I really want to hear from you and others on the TAG, like what kind of direction would be helpful? Because I'm just guessing right now.
Yeah. And I'm not on the TAG, so I'm going to throw it to Angela, who is the chair of the IRC, since it's going to affect your work greatly.
Well, yeah, actually, I kind of had sort of a question, and I think it was one of my questions on my list for today for this that I think goes with this is with this TAG during the meetings how are the changes going to be handled? Is it something that the TAG is giving suggestions to a proposal and the proponent then tries to incorporate those and resubmit them? Or is this going to be where the TAG is making changes to the proposal and then, voting on those changes individually? Or do you know what I mean? Just because this one is a larger, it's not just we're editing a code section and now we're going to discuss this. It is an entire new thing. And I know that, so like I did do one of the proposals, and I did the one where, like you said, was full IBC. I mean, everything came across and everything, but then I did submit a revision, which is a very condensed, more IRC centric version of that. And so that's where I'm curious as to, in the meeting, say like on Monday, when you look at the new ones that you didn't look at the last meeting, how are changes going to be looked at? And I think that might be one of the things you're asking for the council is, does this tag have the authority to go in and basically kind of take a framework and just create an overall proposal? Is that what you're sort of asking?
I do think that's part of it, and I think the answer is yes. I think, but we should have that discussion as a council and make sure everyone's on this, the same page and given the same direction. Yeah.
Todd, can I respond to that? I see.
Yeah, of course, please. Yeah.
Angela, what I believe, again, is this a tag or is this a work group? I am, again, I've commented this a few times, coming from private industry, I'm a little bit less worried about what we call ourselves. I'm looking at the end product, which is this group needs to come up with code language or modifications to the IRC for the one and the IBC for the other. And we have to do that by the next code cycle. So outside of that, we've been trying to meet the same CR 102 requirements if possible. But we also don't have, we have some flexibility on the dates of December 1st. I don't believe applies to us. We can go out beyond that because we are not part of this is not part of the same 3-year cycle. So I won't get into all the details of what we can and can't do, but this group is meant to move forward and come up with code language. What I would hope for our conversation on Monday, one of the things that we would like to talk about is kind of your question of, are we, for instance, there is a proposal for the IRC that goes through and modifies language in all of the code. There is another proposal, actually 2 proposals, I think, that really are, here's an appendix. And if you're going to do, charging language, if you're going to do in the residential code, want to do a 6-plex, you have to do it according to this appendix. And then it's a self-contained IRC code language. And I think that our group needs to figure out exactly what the direction is. And then it will become, let's create a working document once we know the direction we want to go. And we will start working on modifying, making suggestions for the language in that document. So I hope that answers your question. That, again, as far as my hope about how we move forward.
Yeah, and have we verified that this does not have to sit through a legislative session like the rest of the code does?
I don't believe that it does, but I don't know that we've had a direct response from Dirk about that. But again, my assumption is it has already gone through the legislative session. The legislature has discussed this and they've told us what we are supposed to do. So
I think we have, though, established that. And Dustin, you or others could jump in there because we're not, this isn't a triennial cycle. We're going to formally consider this after adoption of is that correct?
Well, so the goal was to bring all this in line and kind of marry it up with the 3-year cycle that we're going on, but with the struggles we're having with getting things done in the timeline, forcing this one through by December 1st might not be the most advantageous for having nice work done on everything else. So I do believe that Derek at a previous meeting did state that we are not necessarily beholden to the 3-year December 1st deadline. But what is included in the legislation is that it is to be included in the 2024 codes. So that being said, the hope is to have the 2024 codes published by mid-year next year. And so we don't want to push it out, too far. But we do have some additional time, not necessarily needing to let this sit through legislative session, but we do need it to be in the codes and ideally in the published books that come out and not as an amendment that comes out after publication is complete.
Yeah, and Angela, when I've talked about schedule with Dustin, if we go beyond December 1st, we're thinking like end of December or in January, so that the whole process of getting it published and can occur at the same time. But so I think that we have some extra time, but not a whole lot.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Tom.
Yeah, I got a question with regard to, steering it, towards the risk factors of the IRC to IBC. Didn't conversations with the proponents of the bill and their intent kind of direct that a little bit? It kind of seems to me like their intent would be to have it land somewhere in the middle. Otherwise it would be more direct, in saying what should happen where, right? Or am I missing the point on this?
No, you're absolutely correct. One of the bill sponsors, who happens to be an architect, knows exactly, what they're asking, right? So, and that was the direct ask is in maybe different words, establish the appropriate risk, factors so that, and I think that's what, where we can provide guidance. I'll add, and I'm gonna go to Chell. I would add, there also, in my opinion, has to be consideration for, in terms of intent, that it's cost competitive. That should be, a very important aspect of it, because we could check technical boxes, but fail at meeting, the legislative intent of why they're doing it, to try to decrease the cost of housing and increase supply of housing. So, Chell, go ahead. I believe you're probably calling us from Boston today.
Yes, I'm at the AI conference in Boston. This is why I've got my suit on. Yeah, so I guess the question you're asking us today is a procedural question. Does a tag have authority to create code? And I think the law gives us a broad mandate to make the 6-plex and a single stair into the codes in whatever way we see fit. And so I guess I see a broad mandate for the tag to adjust or suggest adjustments to any part of the code that would be necessary to put that into the overall IRC and IBC, and if there are adjustments in other codes, maybe those would also be part of it. So I guess I see them having a broad mandate. They have no power. We are the ones that would ultimately make the decision as to if they went too far and somehow breadth, but I would not want to limit them in any way in suggesting what modifications might be necessary to enact this law. And then my second point would be, I don't think we'd be following the law's intent if we copy paste the IBC into the IRC. The reason why a law was passed was to make something between the IRC and the IBC. We can already do larger buildings under the IBC. So we were being asked to do something that is closer to the IRC, and they didn't tell us to make the IBC slightly like the IRC. They told us to start with the IRC and make it a bit more like the IBC, in my opinion. So I see that as a clear legislative intent, as I can read it and have read some about it. I haven't talked to legislators directly, but it seems like it's supposed to be more like the IRC than the IBC, especially from the cost perspective that you just mentioned. So those are my comments, and I guess the first one is more about I don't know what power you're asking for, but I think they should have a broad mandate, the tag, to adjust whatever bits of code they need and suggest it to us. So I guess I don't see where the question is before the council. I'd like to understand that more.
Yeah, and I'll be very clear. I don't think we can and should take action today. And this is a special meeting. This is raising raising the discussion. There are members that are on the tag in attendance here today, and this is we can they can have that discussion on Monday, and then but we have an opportunity here. We have another meeting in 3 weeks. So if there was a request from the tag, or if we let this marinate a little bit and think about how we would want to, potentially help as we monitor and join the tag, the discussion on Monday, that could be helpful. I'll get more specific, for those of us that are in professional practice, to me, this is kind of like the challenge we always have if we're going to go on an alternative materials design and methods approach, where we're requesting, a certain to a building official, for example, an alternative approach, and we have to make the argument of how this is either equivalent or it's somehow addressing the risk factors in a different way. But the challenge we always have with equivalency is, we have a prescriptive code for the most part. And so unlike a lot of other performance-based codes, we don't, there's inherent, understanding of risk factors, but very rarely is it actually written down what we're trying to achieve. So I hope that made sense. So if you look at the framework I try to put down, again, I'm not asking for anyone to adopt this outright, but it asks for that. Can we establish where we are referencing, obviously, authoritative documents? That's the official terminology for if you're putting it in code or standards or so forth. Can we give design guides? Can we reference design guides? And then I repeatedly said, and individually substantiated design methods. And that would open up, kind of a broader context of how we could achieve. I suspect that this tag wants to recommend two prescriptive solutions to these questions, and that would achieve it. But what are they designing those prescriptive solutions to? Is my question. Hope that made sense. If not, challenge or ask questions. And anyone from the public, please raise your hand, and we have this open for public comment. Go ahead, Larry.
Is the challenge here so you have a single exit out of the apartment without any other exits, like a window for a person to be able to get out? Is that the challenge here that I'm hearing? And are we making inroads to maybe increasing sheetrock requirements or requirement of sprinklers to be able to do this? That's what I'm kind of wondering, because single exit to me does that mean that there's no other way to get out of that apartment except through that exit? That's a question to you. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Larry. Go ahead, Angela.
Single exit is for the IBC. The multiplex is a separate situation. It doesn't include single exit. It's just bringing a sixplex into the IRC. They're two different legislative mandates. And so we have been sort of blurring and confusing them, I think, a little bit. They're the same work group tag, whatever you want to call it, but they're two different proposals. One is just a sixplex in the IRC. One is single exits in the IBC. So the single exit out of the sixplex isn't a thing. It doesn't apply.
Okay. Thank you, Angela. Roger.
Well, I did want to say, because maybe Todd, you and I created confusion, but just as you see what's on the screen there, we are a technical advisory group because the legislature said we're supposed to call ourselves a technical advisory group. So let's not get too concerned about what we're, a work group or a tag. We're a tag because that's what they said we are. I think, Larry, what I would respond, and it's basically what Angela said, it is in the building code. Right now, you have to have 2 stairs if you're in the building code. And people have to be able to, at least, and people can correct me, you have to in bedrooms have access out a window. So that is not changing. It's just that there is one stairwell. Does that stairwell need to be strengthened with a longer fire rating or something? I think that's one of a higher fire rating. That's a conversation that we will, as a tag, have. So.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Angela, and then I'll go to Ken after Angela.
Yeah, sorry, just for the record, a window is not a form of egress. It's an emergency escape opening that is a separate requirement for the code. So that's just another thing to keep the terms separate. Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Angela.
Thank you. Let's go to Ken.
Hi, I'm just wondering, does the single stair aspect of it, are you guys aware of the California CAL FIRE single exit stair task group meetings that they've been having and the members that are on there, and the work that they've been doing with regards to the cost of it, and our past director Stoyan's actually one of the task group members. Is anybody participating in those and sharing information?
Not that I know, but thank you for raising that. That's yeah. It's interesting. And hopefully someone on the tag, we can reference that and try to incorporate. And as everyone knows, I mean, there is a lot of movement across the country, and I think there's a great opportunity, and I'm glad it's one tag because I think there's a broader context here, and part of what we need to do here is also give guidance on whether it's simply addressing the minimum requirements of the statute, or are we really talking about a broader housing approach? And so what is the real spectrum? Is it two discrete things, or are we talking about a certain spectrum between 2 and 24 units that we can and should provide a framework for, even if we only provide the tag recommends 2 prescriptive solutions for the statute? Go ahead, Katie.
So I'm sorry, I feel like I'm really dense, but I'm just gonna ask, I feel, so are we trying to basically determine who determines the level of risk we're willing to, yeah, okay. So in a proposal, kind of like what's happening with the EV chargers, we're kind of seeing that's where the discussion is like, okay, what is but that's more like future casting going, but like we have a couple proposals going and it's kind of bumped up to the SBCC, and then it got dropped back down, and then it went up to the MVPE, and then it got dropped back down. And so, I mean, I feel like that's going to happen with this in the same way, like kind of trusting the system a little bit and go, part of the conversation is the risk that we're willing to take. So, and at every level, we're going to be discussing that. So I guess I feel like we have a system in place that will do some of that, and the public will be involved at every level. So I feel like the statute is saying, go through the process. And I don't know if it needs to be any different than it is.
Yep, I agree. And the tag is very qualified of subject matter experts. I'm really excited about the expertise that's on that tag. So I think you're right. And that might be all we need to talk about today. So go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I was going to say, Todd, I think, Katie, you kind of hit the nail on the head. There is a conversation about the risk that is acceptable for these, because we are being asked by the legislature to modify these 2 codes for these 2 things. And I think the tag my hope is the tag can have good, robust discussion about those risks, hopefully base it on some if not code, some basis, we can find a basis for a discussion about those risks. And, but that will be part of the conversation. And I think that we're asking for the full council to be part of that. I mean, I think that we will, as a tag, we will present what we've come up with to the full council, but I would ask the council be prepared to weigh in and consider what the recommendations of the tag. So
Okay. Well, thank you for entertaining that discussion. Anyone else have anything to say on this? All right, Roger, good luck on Monday. We'll be there. Okay, if not, we'll close that agenda item and we'll ask if there's any other business. Okay. Hearing none. Thank you everyone for your time today. We will adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.